This is Hard Parking, brought to you by Right Honda and Right Toyota out of Scottsdale, Arizona. Of course, I am your host, Jhae Pfenning. Coming up on today's show, Sean Corbett, local car guy, awesome car. We both have lean pins. We're going to talk about that a little bit. We're going to talk about what he does for work. Also, I bought a new car. That's right. I have officially replaced my 1997 Acura NSX. Worked really hard to get good credit, and I use the Experian app. Pay money for it every month. It's Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, but the Experian app is always updated. The Equifax and the TransUnion, those get updated when I get a hit, and if you want your refresh, it's once a year, or you can pay like $20 for it. But you know, my wife and I have worked really hard to pay all that stuff down. And like years ago, man, I don't even know how we can afford a new car. And it's crazy. And it's a sense of accomplishment. I don't officially pick the car up until later this week when I get back from South Carolina on this family trip. But, you know, so what did I buy? I'll tell you right after this break from 4 Wheel Online. Jhae Pfenning here, and I want to tell you guys about 4 Wheel Online. For over a decade, 4 Wheel Online has been bringing the best truck accessories and truck parts to enhance the appearance and performance of all trucks and SUVs. They are dedicated to providing an extensive range of upgrades that will match any maker model on the road. The truck products cover everything you need to give your truck a custom look and added functionality. And if you need a tire and wheel package, head over and use the configuration tool. They carry all the major brands of wheels and tires, so go get outfitters today. So visit them online at 4 Wheel Online or call them at 813-769-2451. Again, that's 4 Wheel Online, the number 4 Wheel Online. All right, so what did I buy? I've been trying to tease this online. I've been trying to shake people off who follow me on Instagram. They all want to know what I'm getting next. I really, really love the Aston Martin Vanquish, the 2002-2006 Aston Martin Vanquish. The Vanquish S is a dream car of mine. Well, the Vanquish is a dream car of mine. And every time when it shows up on like Bring a Trailer, I post it because I really want one. That's like my second or third favorite vehicle that I'm going to own one day. And the price is right for those right now. But that is not what I bought. What did I buy? I am the new owner of a Acura NSX 2022 Type S 130R VIN 130 of 350. Yeah, pretty exciting. You know, it's kind of cool. As of recording this, it hasn't quite set in yet. I think it's like once I go and pick it up and I get in the car, I turn it on, I'm driving it out of the dealership, it'll probably start to set in a little bit. But I've said this before because everyone, when I bought my other car, everyone's like, oh my God, were you so excited? I bet you were just doing cartwheels up and down. And I wasn't. And here's why. When you win the lotto, it's unexpected. Like we all talk about what we're going to do when we win the lotto, but like realistically, none of us ever really expect to win the lotto. If you win a bet, right? You bet on this team to kick that team's ass, and you do like a $500 bet, and it's like 20-1 odds, and you win, and all of a sudden you're rich. That's exciting. When I bought my first NSX, it took me 20 years. 20 years of dreaming. Like I literally had dreams of owning that car. So once I got a job and could actually afford it, then once I bought the car, it was more of a sense of accomplishment, not excitement. And I remember pulling up, like I bought it in Minnesota. Took a red-eye flight from work, picked the car up, drove to Milwaukee to pick up my wife, who took the ferry over from Muskegon. We made a trip out of it. We went to we went up north around the UP, the Mackinac Bridge, we did everything North Michigan. And then as I was pulling into Grand Rapids, like 2 days later, I was at the last stop sign of my street. And I looked to the left where my house was, about 7 houses down. And then I got that big smile like, holy shit, this is mine. And that's about it. You know, that's about as exciting as I got owning that vehicle when I first bought it, because it was more of a sense of accomplishment. It's like, finally, after all this time, like you think I would have cried. I'm more likely to cry because of that than I am to jump up and down in excitement. Now, people are excited for me, but that's just how I am. And with this car, it was one of those things where like a lot of stuff had to happen. And I've said that before, but like number one, you know, I had to get it with no dealer markup. That was the first deal. because I can't afford $10, $15, $20, $50,000 over stickers. It's a $170,000 car. Got that. The general manager said, we can do that for you. I said, all right, cool. The second thing had to be sign off from my wife. Yes, it is important to get sign off of your significant other when making a major purchase. She signed off on it. We ran the numbers. She goes, well, if I think we can do it, we can do it. And I said, well, you're the accountant. You tell me. Because we've handled 3 car payments at once for over $1,000 and kind of where we wanted to, kind of stay with this one. I was like, look, we both make a lot more money than we did at that time. At that point, if we could pay a little bit more than that a month, if it makes sense, plus the car is already worth more before we even buy it, it's an investment. She signed off on it. Number 3, when the car went on sale, I had to make sure I was one of the lucky 350 people to secure the vehicle, because at 9 a.m., August, I want to say 13th, whatever the Friday was, Pacific time, you can officially order the vehicle. $10,000 down, which is crazy. I was just getting off the airplane from Monterey, connecting through Phoenix, my hometown, to Michigan to meet the family. I get off the plane. The general manager left me a message. Hey, Jay, give me a call as soon as you can. We want to get this thing secured. Time was about 8:30. By the time that they would submit at 9, I would have already been back on the connecting flight. Tried to call my wife. She didn't answer. No time to get her permission to put the $10,000 down. Called the dealership back. Said, okay, here's my American Express Gold card. Here's my $10,000. Make sure you don't submit it a minute before 9. Make sure you don't submit it a minute after 9. And then we're in. So they submitted it. And I didn't know for about a week if I even got one. Because the way Acura did this, it's like, okay, well, the top 100 dealerships in the country are guaranteed an allocation. Then the top of the top are guaranteed 2 vehicles. That's 100, that's about 150 cars. Now there are well over 200 something dealerships. 300 of these cars went to the US, 50 of them went to the rest of the world. So the pool's already shrunk. My dealership wasn't even a top 100 dealership, but they were given an allocation. And despite there being 5 or 6 people in line, I was the first one to get my order in. That car had my name on it. So that was the next thing. Number 4, I need to make sure I'm working, because I'm a contract worker. I live my life 3 to 6 months at a time, basically. And I got a contract extension, which was good, but the car was slated for a May build. And I was like, well, shit. If I get a 6-month contract extension in January, that's going to be really close, because it's, proof of income, proof of employment. When you're filling out the application, everything has to work out. So I never got excited, even though my wife signed off the dealership. I got an allocation, got a build date. I was very tentative because I also had to sell my old car for as much as I wanted. And I could have got more money for it easily, but I also could have got lowballed. But I got what I wanted for it. So that was another check mark. But this whole thing was like a list, and everything had to be checked off in order for that to happen. And everything, one at a time, was getting checked off. Lost one job because I had 2, part-time, full-time. And by the time I lost my full-time gig, the car still wasn't here. That's the one I wanted to use because I've been working for them nonstop 2018. And the other one was like, okay, well, this is just going to have to be the job for me. But I eventually got another contract, which is cool. So at this point, the first company that I wanted to work for forever, I picked up another contract with them. So I could put on my application, I've been working with them since 2018. Even though I had a break, if someone ever asked, it's like, yeah, well, I took an administrative leave. What the fuck? Anyway, call them and verify my employment, bitches. But they didn't need that. They wanted paycheck stubs for both jobs. I did it. They never asked. Why was there a big gap? They wanted W-2s. We made a lot of money last year. More money than we're probably ever going to make. Things just worked out with me working 2 jobs. My wife getting a raise. We just made a lot of money last year. Paid our credit card down really low. A lot of hard work, a lot of hours working, a lot of money put toward that shit. And then here we are. Car was here. Car wasn't, and then it was. It was amazing. Went and signed the paperwork. I'm just going to keep the car there. Keep the car there for another week. Here's why. My son's dogs my daughter's watching them while we're in South Carolina. His dog sitters quit because his dogs are fucking nuts. They're a lot to handle. They're fun dogs. Neither one of them have been fixed. They're both males. They pee and shit everywhere. One of them is fucking nuts. The other one is pretty cool. But Like, that's a sign, right? If you have a dog keeper, if you have 2 dog keepers and they're both like, nah, we're good. Fuck that, we're done. Then you got to train those dogs. But he doesn't want to. So we have the dogs now in this giant cage in the garage. But I didn't want to bring the car home because the garage is messy. Why is the garage messy? Not my fault. You remember about a month ago, I was telling you about the remodel downstairs. We're turning the bathroom and the laundry room into like one big morphed room with adding an extra access door on the outside, on the side, and all that kind of stuff. Project was supposed to take 6 to 8 weeks. Ended up taking like 4.5 months. That's the one where the post tension cable broke. End result was pretty nice. It's not if you were around long enough to watch them do it, there's a lot of like stupid shit they should have done better. But just walking in on the situation, like, oh, wow, that's really nice. But they didn't finish that until I was in Canada. And so we still have shit in the garage because the plan was for them to get it done, for us to fix the garage, rearrange it, because I had the cabinets, the hanging cabinets everybody has in the garage. So I had the cabinets, the desk, the floor cabinets, the tall one, and everything was a unit. But what happened was the door going into the house, they had to move that over. They shifted it over one side, like 4 feet. And it went right into where the cabinets were. So I had to take part of the cabinets down. But now you have the door and you have the water heater, and I can't put the cabinets up there anymore. There's just no room. So I have to switch them to the other side. So there's a lot of stuff that we need to do in the garage, clean the garage, do all this shit before the car got here. The car is here in the area, but it's like, I don't. Going back to the dogs though, because my daughter, she's going to forget about them. She will. And they're going to pee or they're going to take a shit. And by the time she gets to them, if she cleans it up, the smell would have already like soaked into the car. And I was like, fuck that. That car is staying at the dealership until we get those dogs out of my fucking garage. But yeah, it's pretty exciting. But one thing that I came across, so we're looking at the paperwork. And again, going back to the credit, we worked really hard. Like I finally have over 800 credit with one of them, 788 and like 760 something. Crazy, as I'll talk about later. I've gone through debt consolidation twice with my wife. But here we are, high 7s, 800 credit. It's important to us. A lot of it was built up for this car, to be completely honest with you. But when we're looking at the credit forms, it says they ran my Experian and I got a credit score of 720. And I was like, 720? It's just, that motherfucker's 814. I know what my credit is. I look at the app every fucking day. Let me ask Will about it. So that's what Will is. Will's a good friend of mine, but he also works for GM. He also works for Toyota Financial. I mean, this is what he does. He looks at loans all day. So I'm going to ask him, Will, what's up with this? I got 814 and this motherfucker's telling me I got 720? 720? Really? Like 720 was a pipe dream for me like 3 years ago. But still, I don't know. Still hasn't sunk in. It will sink in. If you're a Patreon, you already knew this. You got pictures of the car already. Thank you for your support. But coming up, Sean Corbett. Will Leitner, good friend of mine, does financing for Toyota. Will, I got a question for you. As I said in the opening, I just bought a brand new car. So I've been working really hard on my credit, right? I showed you the other day what my credit scores should be according to the Experian that I pay for. Yeah. It's like 814, 88, and 7 something, high 7s. So when I was looking at the paperwork for the car from the bank, they used Experian, but my score was 720.
There's a lot of lenders that go off of Experian. Most mortgage companies do the same thing. I don't know. There's a lot of companies that will ask to pull TransUnion or Equifax for a higher FICO score. But there are some companies that strictly only go off of that certain FICO, or that certain bureau. So yeah, and it's weird how they all intertwine because none of them are the same scores. Because some trade lines report to one bureau and sometimes they don't report to another.
Yeah, but like my Experian right now, it's 801. I just pulled up the app, and it's down 13 points because of getting the car loan, like getting the pool. But why does my Experian tell me it's 801 and their Experian's telling them it's 720? Like, what are the hidden factors that people need to think about? You know?
So because there's different FICO, like Intel 3s, Intel 4, Intel 5. So every time there's like a new update, they come out with new stuff, right? So new algorithms and whatever. So whenever they come out, the recent one I think is FICO 8, and that's a lot of the newer stuff. So if a dealership is running off of an older FICO testing stage, I guess it would be, they'll pull a different score. So if they're using FICO 2, they won't see the FICO 8 score with the new algorithms that the bureaus are now pulling. And a lot of times dealers don't upgrade their stuff because it costs thousands and thousands of dollars to get all that stuff. For credit unions, banks, a lot of dealerships that I talk to, they run off of like FICO 3 and 4 just because FICO 8 is expensive. It's just like Windows. You buy a Windows program and it gives you new applications and new cool stuff and features, but it costs a lot of money for lenders, or even not even lenders, to dealerships in general, to buy that product.
So there's no way a consumer would know which FICO version that, so I would assume, since I'm using the Experian app, that I'm using the latest FICO version because it's their fucking app, but I don't know if Florida State Credit Union is using that. Those ones run off of like basic information.
So it kind of gives you like a general idea. So the only really like true ways to, do that freecreditreport.com, you can do it once a year, and that'll tell you exactly what it is at that exact moment in time. But yeah, like applications and stuff. Big one is that Credit Karma. That's just kind of like inflated. We think this is your score. It's not an actual true FICO score test. So it kind of gives you a general idea, basing upon information from everybody around the world with similar profiles. So it kind of gives you like a dummy FICO score in the realm, but it's not exact.
But like, this is the legit Experian app. It's not Credit Karma.
Do you pay for it?
Yeah, I pay for this. And then every year,
was like an 8, and then they had like a 720. You said.
Yeah, so this is I got 801 from Experian. My Equifax is 788, and my TransUnion is 774.
And they pull like a 720 or whatever.
As of May 11th, as of today. So May 11th, so since this is Experian, Equifax and TransUnion, it only refreshes once a year, or unless I want to pay for it, which, since I'm paying for Experian, it refreshes like every day. So it's weird. Like, I still got the rate that I wanted. I got a killer rate, killer terms, 1.99%, 5 years, amortized out to 10, balloon payment after 5. $1,300 a month. We still got like a crazy fucking deal, but it would have sucked had, that score have like knocked me down, or they've been like, well, because of your score, we got to increase it a percentage,
Yeah, and then with the rates that are sitting at now, and anything really over a 720, you're going to be a tier 1 plus. So people who have like 900 credit score, it's just bragging rights at that point. But yeah, you can be a 720 and still get an 800 plus score rate. Yeah. Because it's all based off of tier 1 plus, tier 1, 2, 3, 4. Some other lenders at my previous job, it was like B, C, A credit, like the Lil Wayne song, A1 credit, right? So it's based off of like A1, A2, A3. So it's different verbiage, but same thing.
So I'm wondering if I'm looking at the paperwork, because you said 720 plus is all the same, I wonder if they just I hit that 720 bracket and then just stop counting from there.
Essentially, yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because it's not 719.
Yeah, and under that would just be like a tier 1, and then you get like a slight up rate. It's not going to be super drastic. It's minor, but some lenders have different specials and stuff. And I don't know what kind of stuff that you have with yours, if they had like a certain special for that vehicle or something, which
nah, man,
maybe, but I highly doubt it. But so yeah, it just really kind of depends on the vehicle type sometimes. But yeah, yours, I don't think it even applies.
Yeah, so I got approved for a certain amount, and I wanted 10,000 more, but apparently even $1 more would have had to have gone up to the CEO at the bank to approve. I was like, oh. Yeah,
everybody has like a credit limit, so I can approve up to like $99,999.99. So $100,000 up to $120,000 goes to my supervisor. 120 to 200 goes to our credit manager, essentially our AVP, and anything above that goes to the next person, which is like 3 to $500,000, and then anything over $500,000 goes up to like the CEO. So everyone has their own limits. Just so somebody like me is not approving a $600,000 Lamborghini or something. So there's checks and balances put in place for stuff like that.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Well, hey, man, I appreciate that. That's a question Yvette and I had, and I was like, well, I'm just going to call Willow. This is what he does. He can at least tell us, if there's some sort of a secret code or something. But hey, even for the listeners, it's a good thing. So you're going to take me to pick up my car?
When you coming back?
Well, we'll be back Wednesday, and then I'm thinking I want to go maybe Thursday or Friday. Do you have to go in the office either one of those days?
I'm 8 to 5 next week. So.
Fuck that. I'll find someone else to take me.
But yeah, I'll be 8 to 5 and I'm off next Saturday.
Maybe I get on a Saturday. It's no rush. Maybe we'll do Saturday. We'll talk about it.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, man. Take care of my dog.
Will do.
It's been a long time since we've done this. Kind of a Arizona ride of the week or just social media highlight of the week. This gentleman, we've talked kind of off and on, and I said, hey, when are you going to come on the pod? And he goes, anytime, brother. And it's been months, and it's been my fault. But finally, on the Sell Shop hotline, so we're going to call it now, Mr. Sean Corbett.
What's up, bro? How are you?
I'm doing good, man. First off, thank you for your patience. Thank you for being available.
Yeah, no problem. My pleasure.
So tell me a little bit about you, because it's a constant theme on this show. Whenever it is, I do have someone on, and it's always the same deal. It's like, I don't really know much about you. I see you at the car shows. You have a bitchin' little ride and whatnot, but I don't like. Where are you from? Where's your area code from? Tell me a little bit about Sean.
Yeah, I'm just I'm actually originally from Detroit, Michigan. And so I grew up most of my young and teenage life in Metro City, Detroit. So I'm from the 313.
Right.
And then my family was like, well, they wanted to kind of get me out of the bad area and give me like a better opportunity. So sold our home and moved out here to Phoenix, Arizona back in 97, roughly.
Oh, you've been out here for a minute.
Hot minute. Yeah. I'm older than I look.
Yeah, I was doing the math in my head. Like, I don't know how old you are, but you look like you're in your 20s, man.
Yeah, no, I'll be 42 this year.
No shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been around for a hot minute.
It's obviously not the Flint water then. Of course, it wasn't an issue then. Yeah.
No. But, I like it. I miss Detroit. I go back every now and then just to go visit and kind of hang out in some of my old spots. A lot of the places that I used to hang out are gone. It's still nice to go back and see old friends and stuff like that and see how they're doing. But I wouldn't want to live there anymore. I like it here better.
Well, yeah, but Detroit, I mean, I think for the giant cities, it's been tougher for Detroit to kind of get back. And I've heard it's on its way back, but man, for a while there, it was pretty scary. Yeah.
No, I kind of grew up like right in the, they call it the Cass corridor. So it's right between Woodward and Cass. And, so in that area, it was a bit of a mix. So if you went down the wrong street, it was like just a bunch of crackheads. And if you went down another street, it was just like a bunch of like regular people. So it was just kind of an interesting mix, kind of like how some parts of Phoenix are. Well, you could be like literally across the street and it'd be $1 million houses, and across the other side of it's like crack houses. So,
right.
But Detroit was no different from that. But yeah, they've done a lot of building and they've kind of improved the area, and home value goes up, and gentrification and all that. It's kind of people moving back into the city, and they took like old warehouses and turned them into apartments and stuff like that. So just like kind of cool stuff. But yeah, I haven't been back for about 5 years. Been wanting to go back. I had plans ready to go, and then COVID had hit. So I just was like wanted to wait it out a few years before I went back. But I'm definitely probably going to go back next year for sure.
So you've been around here a lot longer than I have. I've only been here for 8 years. And, with a 616, I'm from the other side of the state. I didn't grow up there, but I lived there for probably 15 years. So I'm kind of the other side of the mitten there from you.
Nice. I think most people like in Phoenix are kind of transplants or from some other area. It's kind of a rarity to bump into people who are from here that are older like us. Like back in the day, it was just like hard to bump into people, but I guess now it's not a big deal. But no, it's cool. I love Phoenix. I mean, I wouldn't trade it. I mean, I go to other cities and they just don't really compare. I mean, here we've got stuff on top of each other, but it's kind of semi-organized, and I like the way that it's constructed. So, I mean, I live in Phoenix now, so I'm really close to the Biltmore. So I have like really nice stuff around me. If I want to go downtown,
Right.
That's not far. If I want to go uptown, that's pretty close. So, and if I need to travel anywhere in the city, I'm basically centrally located. So I picked this spot for a reason because I'm basically just 20 minutes from anywhere, which is really nice.
Yeah, the grid setup here is unlike any major city that I've ever been to. It's so easy to get somewhere, and there's multiple ways to get there.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are some of the craziest things that you've seen, or what's something that's going on in Phoenix now that you couldn't have imagined, 10, 15 years ago?
When I moved out here, I literally moved to the northernmost point where there was nothing, and that was like Happy Valley Road and the I-17. There was nothing there when I first moved out. The bus route came all the way up to 35th Avenue and Yorkshire. That was the farthest that it would go. So when I was a kid, if I wanted to go anywhere, which was like Metro Center or go to Mills, I had to take a bike all the way down from Happy Valley to Yorkshire, then take the bus all the way down, which was like an hour ride just to get to Tempe Mills. I mean, I remember when GameWorks first opened up. Like I was there like when they were still brand new. And Metro Center was popping back in the day. That was my spot. Just to kind of date myself. But now like Metro's no longer, it doesn't exist anymore. And now they have bus routes going all the way up to Happy Valley, and they've got so much established up there. The Deer Valley 30 that's there wasn't there when I was a kid. That was all brand new stuff. It's just wild how much this city has like really expanded and grown. Even like Chandler, right? I remember when they were building the 202 and everything south of that back in the day. And then, you got Santan and all those areas. There's just like all new neighborhoods. It's crazy like how much the city has really grown over just like the last 10 years.
What happened to Metro Center? Like since I've been here in 8 years, I've seen car meets and weekly events and cars and coffees come and go. And I haven't even been here that long. Like how much change have you seen? Is it kind of like the stock market where it's really big when it's really big and then there's nothing when there's nothing, or what do you think's going on here?
Oh, with Metro, Metro Center got kind of dicey because people were getting shot there all the time. They had some weird, sketchy stuff going on there, and then the business just moved out. But now I've been going to meets for decades. I remember back in the day, we used to go to like Armando's, like up at Deer Valley and the 17. That used to be like the spot, or like Ramiro's. And everybody used to go out there and hang out on the weekend. And, of course, then people would go street race and, do burnouts and all that other malarkey that would get stuff like that shut down.
Malarkey.
Yeah, malarkey.
Nice.
Shenanigans.
Yeah. Those damn kids.
Those are some of my favorite memories, though. Like, I've always been going to meets since I could remember. But my car build it's been kind of done on and off like over the last 15 years, but it was down for like the longest time because I really wanted to redo it the right way before I took it out to meets and shows and stuff. So there was a period of time that I didn't really attend anything for probably like 7-8 years.
How did that feel? Like, what did you do with your time? You just moved to some other hobby, or like, what have you done? What do you do for work? Are you always changing what you do, or is it closely related to cars, or has nothing to do with the automotive industry or the scene?
Yeah, no, I didn't want, so I used to have a shop. So I had my own auto repair business back in the day. That was back in 2012. And
okay.
So I used to have a shop up in North Phoenix, like right off of the 17 and in Union Hills. And I had that open for a little bit over a year. And then I went over to JCCS to show off a car that I had. And somebody broke into the shop and stole like a bunch of parts and damaged a lot of stuff in the property. So I kind of got a bad taste after that. So I shut down my business right after that, and didn't really do anything automotive for a long time. But my main field is sales and customer service. So right now I actually work in debt relief. It's great. I get to work from home, like pays the bills, make good money, and I can take those extra liquid funds and dump it into my car projects, which is nice.
So debt relief, do you collect, or you help people consolidate? Like, tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I help people consolidate debt. So I deal with a lot of people who are looking for, they're either looking for a loan, or they just want to consolidate their debt because they just don't have any breathing room. They're trying to get rid of their credit card debt. And then we explore like different options like debt settlement or credit counseling, and just kind of see like what's a better fit for them. But the main goal is to try to put them in a position where they're able to consolidate the debt into a more manageable or affordable payment, and be able to save money at the same time while simultaneously actually working towards paying off the debt within a reasonable time frame. So it's a lot of boxes to check. It's not hard to do. It's just a lot of people are not open-minded to new ideas. But for the ones that usually are, then they succeed really well in those types of programs.
How do you describe, like, how do people get into those situations? Like, how would you, because you get to talk to all sorts of people, and is it because I think the public perception of somebody who's never probably been in that situation is maybe they gamble, or maybe they do something just reckless with their money, or, but because I'll answer the question and then I'll give you my thoughts on that.
It's a lack of education. So when we were younger, right? I mean, we were all 18 once. And I don't know if you remember your first credit card, but it doesn't.
I'll never forget it.
Yeah. It doesn't really come with instructions. They just kind of give it to you and say, here's your limit. And that's it. They don't really explain to you that you need to, watch your utilization, keep it under a certain percentage. You need to pay off the card. You're just like, oh, I've got this free amount of money. And then you basically go blow it because you want to go buy all of this stuff that you currently don't have. And then you get the bill and you're like, oh, it's just $30. It's such a small payment. I can easily afford that. And then a couple months down the road, you realize that your balance is still the same. It's not going down. You're like, well, that's kind of interesting. And then you quickly discover the pains of high interest, right? So it's hard. It's easy to get into credit card debt, but it's hard to get out of, because people will spend all of this money and then just budget for the minimum payment. And then when they realize that that's just not enough, they don't have the money to unbury themselves. So, and again, there's no benefit to a credit card company explaining this information to a consumer, because it's right. In the creditor's obviously best interest to make as much interest as possible. Sure. So you can tank your credit very easily, even if you've never missed a payment in your entire life, and just have high utilization and balances on credit cards. So, but I mean, most of the people that I've been dealing with, though, it's like mostly COVID stuff. I mean, if you have a choice between starving or using that piece of plastic to put food on the table for you and your family, you're going to use that piece of plastic every time, right?
Every time. Yep.
So you just have to go into survival mode, and the justification is like, hey, it is what it is, and I'll figure it out later, right? But when later comes, you're like, well, what are we going to do to unbury yourselves, because we just don't have the money to do it. So that's where I would come in and just say, hey, this is what we can do. We can work with the creditor. We can explain it was a COVID situation. And like in settlement, the creditor would forgive a significant portion of the debt and then let you pay back the remaining portion in interest-free payments, which is really nice. So it allows me to reduce what their costs are, sometimes up to 50%, and give them like a little bit of breathing room so that they can save money and still satisfy the debt amicably with the creditor without any long-term impact.
That's huge.
Yeah, I love my job. It's amazing to like start the conversation with somebody and literally they're in tears because they feel so lost and they don't know what to do, and they're just coming to you for help. And then within an hour conversation, they're tears of joy, right? They're so overwhelmed and happy that you were able to help them out. It's such a huge like 180 that you can impact on people. And I'm a firm believer in every aspect of my life that you always find people or places and you leave them better where you found them, right? So if I can impact and communicate and touch so many people and leave them in a better position, that in itself is rewarding. Like I would do it just for that, but obviously warm and fuzzies don't pay the bills. So it's nice that I do get paid for it, obviously. But
sure, of course.
I love my job. It doesn't feel like a job to me at all.
So my wife and we just, we've been working on our credit and we've been doing all that, paying off. And we just went to Toronto. And this is our first time going to Toronto since we got married in 2004. We went there for our honeymoon because we didn't have a lot of money. We were both starting out, And I remember a conversation, I'm going to bring it up with her later, that I remember asking her how much money did she think she's going to need. And she goes, well, I think I'd be content with I forgot how much she was making, like 40 grand at the time.
Yeah.
Like 70 grand a year would be all I need. I'm like, okay, that's good money. It's pretty good money, whatnot.
Yeah.
But we went on this trip and looking back, we don't remember anything from the trip because now we're in like a completely different, 18 years later, tax bracket, different jobs. And I said to her the other day, I was looking at my credit scores and I go, holy shit, I showed her 3 of them, one was over 800 and the other 2 were high 7s. And our DTI is like 20-something%. So we're getting ready to buy a car. And I said to her, actually, we did buy the car. I said, look at this score. Could you ever imagine? Because we had to go through someone like you twice in the last 18 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And we had to dump our retirement. We had 2 mortgages because we had moved. We had to spend so much money just to move here to Phoenix.
Yeah.
And I stopped doing the big bread job for stability. And then I had to jump back into the field. And it's crazy because I think initially when you said, remember your first credit card, we get into debt because we just don't understand. And the thing is, I remember it's Gordon Jewelers card. I got it at the Galleria Mall in Dallas, Fort Worth. And I remember I bought some herringbones. And the lady, she's like, oh, you still have, I think my limit was like $1,800. You still have $700 or more to spend or whatever. And you think of that like, wow, okay, I can rack this thing up because just like you were saying, man, they don't tell you don't spend this money. They say spend it all because it's in their best interest. And I ended up buying a Movado watch, and that card followed me for so many years. And it was part of the first debt consolidation.
Jeez.
Because you pay once you go overhead, it's like the interest rate automatically spikes if you're late for 5 days, and all of a sudden you're paying 30% on a card and you're making minimum wage and you're just fucked, man.
Yep. And then when you make that payment late, it all goes towards the interest. You've missed your window.
Yeah. And then compound that by a million different credit cards and card payments and rent payments and utilities. And like you said earlier, if you're going to eat, you want to eat. It's not just buying Jordans and just stupid shit, man. Just people with just normal everyday life.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. And then people they use their credit cards for everyday expenses too. So they're literally just credit dependent. So when you communicate with people, because part of the deal with debt relief is they have to lose their credit card. So it's a huge security blanket to them. They don't want to lose it. I'm like, look, you're going to be able to save $200-$300 a month. You don't need the credit card anymore. And they're like, oh yeah, right. It's become such a crutch at that point, and you're just ripping it away from them and say sprint. They're just not prepared for that. But sometimes you just have to shock and awe the credit like that in order to get out from under it. So, but Yeah, it's an epidemic. I mean, our company, we probably enroll at least $2 million in debt every single day. I mean, that's just how busy we are. Yeah, it's pretty insane.
What was the hardest part about running that business as a startup for you?
With my shop?
Yeah, with the shop before the vandalism and all that came.
I did it. I opened it up because I wanted to have kind of a cool, like, hang out and work on cars kind of a stuff. So it wasn't really meant to be like a full-fledged auto repair shop. I mean, it was just registered that way. So I just did like my car projects and other friends and would just do some side work. Like I would meet people randomly and I'm like, oh, I have a shop. And then they would say, oh, could you do like this and this for me? And I'm like, yeah, come by, and kind of like a really good deal or whatnot. But my rent on it at the time was so cheap. Like back in the day in 2012 for shop space, 1,500 square feet, it was like $800 maybe. And I also built like an upstairs loft, so I had lived there too. So I was saving money. So it was kind of cool, like a little Fast and Furious kind of style.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, all good things come to an end. I mean, it is what it is. But I would love to, now that I'm older, have like another kind of shop like that kind of situation. Just kind of like have like a cool little spot for, friends to come over and have the lift and stuff like that. Just something where, I can use it not just for me, but like for like friends and like my car friends to use. Just kind of give back to like my team or community or whatever if they need help with stuff. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, people will take advantage of you. Like I have a pretty strong suspicion of who actually broke into my shop. I won't say it obviously for liability purposes because I can't prove it, but it was somebody that I knew that was close to me. So they just kind of took advantage because they knew that I was out of town. I didn't advertise it. Sure enough, like literally as soon as it was in California, somebody broke into the shop. So I was like, well, that's suspicious. Mm-hmm. That's weird.
Well, that sucks.
Yeah, but hopefully that doesn't happen to me again in the future. So, but we'll see. Life isn't over yet.
So you and I, we are Lean Pin alumni. How did you get that going?
Oh, yes.
Because it's a very difficult thing to do.
Well, I had talked to him way back in the day, and we talked about collaborating, and he was like, yeah, it's going to be this much to invest into it. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize that there was such a huge cost. And at that time I actually had a pass, so there was an initial offering and I didn't take it. And then later when he kind of blew up, and then he was just like unavailable. But I just kind of like, just saw him at shows and just said, hey buddy, like, I'm here. Here's the car if you want to check it out. And I think it was just kind of always on his radar. And then one day he just kind of hit me up out of the blue and just said, hey, are you ready to do it? And I was like, yes.
Right. You got to take advantage of that when it comes.
Yeah, I was like, I totally missed it. So second chances don't come often. Yeah, I hopped all over it. But sadly, when I went out to the launch, which was at the Honda Fest, they totally messed up where his crate was supposed to be. So they had back-to-back events that weekend, and they put the crate on one side of the parking lot where the first event was, but the Honda Super Meet was on the opposite parking lot. So he was literally on the opposite end of the entire event. So he wasn't mixed in with the other vendors. But people obviously that wanted the pins like would come all the way over to get the stuff, but it wasn't like in the mix of everything, right, which kind of sucked. And then he gave me all of my pins, and I put as many pins as I could into my car, like in my glove box and stuff like that. And I put the rest of them in my backpack. And I had my backpack with me by my car pretty much the whole day. And right at the tail end of the show, I like stepped away to go do something, and someone stole my backpack with like half of the pins and all my cleaning supplies and my room key to my hotel and some other stuff. Luckily, I had my car keys on me and my house keys, because that would have sucked up my wallet and everything. But all the stuff that I had purchased at the show, like the stickers and shirts and all that was gone, and lost like half of the pins that I had paid for. So that release went super quick, because whatever he had, he sold at the show and online like same night. And then whatever I had left, which was half of what I was supposed to get, went really quickly too. So no one ever found the backpack or the pins. So I think they might have got tossed or something, but I haven't seen anything since about it.
That's super shitty. And as you started to tell that story, I remembered what happened. And man, that's just shit.
Yeah.
Do you watch eBay to see if it ever pops up?
Yeah.
Like just the pins?
Yeah, someone actually sent me a link for one, but it was just like one. It wasn't like a multiple. And if it was like, hey, I got 20 of them, then that would have been obviously like a huge red flag. But I think somebody probably just grabbed it and maybe threw it away or whatever, or took the pins. Who knows? Whatever.
That's a tough break. So tell us about what the pins were. Tell us about your car.
Yeah, so my car is one of the most expensive Del Sols ever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I did not realize what I was getting into when I started this project, but I wasn't going to stop until I finished it. I bought the car back in 2006. It was just a stock 92 Del Sol SAR from Japan. The guy that I bought it from lived in Buffalo, New York. And he bought it from an importer. And back in the day, you could bring cars over as a shell, right? Like that was the workaround, right?
I remember that.
To beat the loophole. And so you could bring the whole shell over as a part, put it all together, and then you have a car. You could register it as the car's special construction or whatever. So it had like a New York issued VIN number, but it didn't have a title. So he couldn't get a title for it. So he sold it for about $6,500 to me. So I was like, no problem. Flew out, bought the car, had some undisclosed issues, like whatever. I didn't care. It was like a right-hand drive Del Sol. It's what I wanted. And then I drove that thing literally with no plates across the country. And didn't get pulled over once. Yeah. And it took me like 2.5 days, because I would just drive until I was tired, and then I would pull over to a rest stop and just crash out for a couple of hours and then just hit the road again. But did it in about 2.5 days. And then basically just kind of drove the car around for a little bit and then took it apart. There was a buddy of mine. He used to have kind of a Mugen inspired Del Sol. His name's Noel Heine. He had a black one. It was actually in Honda tuning back in the day. Like,
that's badass.
Rodrez, he shot that car, and that thing was on my wall for the longest time, like a picture of his car. And I was like, this is the car that I want to build. I want that kit. So I connected with local JDM experts like Matt over at ICB, and he got me like my first part for the car, which was like the front bumper, the Mugen front bumper for it. And then I literally spent probably like 4 or 5 years gathering most of the aereo kit from different places and other different parts. And then in 2012-13, like after my shop got broken into, they stole like a bunch of stuff off of the car, like a lot of the Mugen parts that I had found. So I had to like rebuild the car probably like 2-3 times until it's in its final form now. But it's a complete Mugen Pro 3 is what they call it. Technically it's a 3rd gen CRX Del Sol. And it's got all of the Mugen aereo, which is like the front bumper, side skirt, spoiler. It's got the full catback exhaust. The whole car is just ground up restoration. So literally I put it on jack stands and put it in a 20x40 storage unit and just rebuilt the whole car from the ground up. Did the whole undercarriage. Every bolt's been zinc plated. All the lower control arms and trailing arms and all of that are all completely powder coated. All of the bushings are from Mugen, so I got everything front to back, all Mugen bushings. Mugen engine mounts. The whole engine and transmission's got Mugen parts in it. The interior is all Mugen down. So anything that I could get for the car, it's on the car. Like there's no aspect about that car that is really not Mugen. The cam though, unfortunately Mugen doesn't make cams for the B series, so I did throw like a Skunk 2 in there for just a little bit of extra oomph, but it runs on a Mugen N1 ECU, so crossovers roughly at about 4,700, but it revs all the way up to 9,600 RPM.
Wow.
Yeah, so it screams at top end. It's pretty insane.
How do you stay motivated with getting shit stolen instead of just being like, all right, fuck it, move on to the next project?
Well, I don't have a defeatist attitude, right? As depressing as the situation was, the only thing that I could do in that moment is just say, okay, stuff is gone. I just need to figure out how to replace it, right? Sure. Where can I go find these hard to find parts again? And it literally took me 10 years just to source everything and put the whole car together. And in fact, there were some parts that I didn't think I would ever find. And in the process of building the car, they would suddenly pop up. After all of these years, my friend would hit me up just like, hey, you want this brand new in-box Mugen clutch for a series? I'm like, yes, I need that. Thank you. So I bought that. That was like one of the last things that I had bought. And the front and rear, like anti-roll bars are Mugen. So I run like 26 in the front and 22 in the rear. What else do I got on this car? I've got like a whole list of 26 millimeter front, 22 rear. I run a genuine Mugen N1 suspension on the car that I completely rebuilt. And randomly, because I check the Yahoo Japanese auctions every day, some guy was clearing out all of the spring sets for that suspension, just all brand new in box. Everything was marked. So I bought all of them, but I run 18K in the front and about 16K in the rear.
Stiff.
Yeah. A little bit.
Yeah. Didn't you have a beat at some point?
Yeah, I still have it. So I bought I used to have like a 2008 Mugen SI, and then on the way to work, this lady rear-ended me and totaled out the car. So I used that money to buy a beat, and it's just chilling outside of my house right now. It's all torn apart. But the goal with the beat is I have all Mugen parts for it, obviously. Got to stick with the theme.
Sure.
But the stock motor on a beat, it's a little, because it's a K car, right? So it's a little 3-cylinder, 660cc motor. It puts out about 60 horsepower, naturally aspirated.
Yeah, I think it's tiny.
Has something like, oh, yeah. And Honda calls it like M-Trek. So it's got multi-throttle body. So it's got like these little individual throttle bodies on it to give it like a little bit of a sharper response. So it's the stock motor in the stock car is super fun to drive. It is really spirited, but I wanted to do something a little bit more crazy. So the goal at this point, and things are already in motion, where I'm going to put in a D series in the back of the Beat, and then I'm going to boost it and throw maybe a little bit over 400 horsepower at that car.
Holy shit.
And it only weighs like 1,675 pounds. So it's going to be a little bit of a land missile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How big are the wheels on that thing? Like 13, 12s? That thing is tiny.
Yeah, it's staggered. So the front stocks are 13, rears are 14. You could run 15s on there just fine. But it has the same wheelbase as a Miata, believe it or not.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It just looks so damn small.
Oh yeah, it's super tiny. I mean, it's literally like half the size of a Miata. I mean, they look giant next to each other. So, but yeah, I mean, just throw a little bit of horsepower at it. Just like it's a little Chihuahua with a Rottweiler bark. So
sure.
Just something a little bit unsuspecting. I want it to be a little bit of a triple, quadruple threat. Take it to limbo because it's really low to the ground and small.
I have lost to that thing.
Yep. And, with the turbo, maybe try to do like a little bit of a two-step. Obviously, it's going to be completely restored, so it's going to be in show condition. But maybe I might, see how it does on quarter mile. Maybe even just try to drift it a little bit. You just have fun with it. I just wanted to make something that was just so unsuspecting and that's never been done before. Because other people have thrown other motors at it. Like I've seen the Hayabusa swap in the back of the Beat, and that's stupid fast too, right?
So I wanted to buy a smart car and do the same thing.
Yeah, because those things are pretty light too.
Yeah,
they're not that heavy. I think that has been done before, though.
It has. Yeah, that's where I saw it. I saw one on doing a bunch of donuts on YouTube, and I was like, shit, I gotta have
it. Well, I wanted to build something that was
not done,
not going to be that expensive to build. So I'm working with Chris Sadowski. He works over at Passport, and he's going to help me with kind of welding together and the points and stuff like that. We're going to try to put something together. I've talked to Brian over at Passport a couple of times about making a kit for it, and I know it's been on his radar, but he's got like a million things going on. So I'm trying to see if I can somehow work with him and work together and try to maybe get his blessing on it to produce some sort of kit, so that other people who want to do the same swap, it'll be easy for them to, or relatively easy for them to do, right? Because a Hayabusa swap is really expensive, and you have to really fabricate a lot of stuff to make that work, and that is outside of the price point for a lot of people. I'm a firm believer of doing grassroots kind of stuff. So if I can make something that is not going to be too expensive to price out like the average gearhead that wants to say, yeah, I'll spend $600-700 on this kit and go get a D series for $500-600, and then now I've got a really powerful Beat for under a couple of $1,000 in mods. I mean, that's kind of the spirit of tuning, right? I don't want to lose that. It doesn't need to be out of the reach of people, because everything is so expensive right now, like material and all that. Like it just just kind of takes the fun out of everything. It doesn't need to be that expensive.
Sean, how can people get a hold of you? How can they follow the adventures of Sean and his Del Sol?
I'm not hard to find, as I tell everybody. So everything is under JDM Rev or JDM Reverend. So Instagram is JDM Reverend. So that's like REVEREND. Facebook's JDM Reverend. Twitter, OnlyFans. TikTok.
That's where you make all your build money, right? From OnlyFans.
You'd be surprised how much people pay for feet pics.
I've heard. I've heard, man.
Hey, it's a hustle, right? Don't knock it if it works.
Not knocking it.
That's right. Yeah, no, and if anyone has any like questions or whatever, I'm always happy to help out new people or point them in the right direction. I'm not a gatekeeper like a lot of people, but I like going to meets and hanging out and meeting cool people and hanging out with guys like you, or try to support the community in any way that I can.
Appreciate it.
I just did the monoculture thing for the Texas shooting. They raised, I think, a little bit over $5,000-6,000 for that charity, which was really nice. So I always try to do cool stuff like that. But yeah, the Beat though should hopefully be done. My goal is to have it done by the end of this year. So next year, next car show season, that thing is going to be coming out. So you got to watch out for that.
We'll be watching for it. Sean, thank you so much for taking the time. I will see you out at a meet sooner than later.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. It's always good hanging out and talking with you for sure. Thanks for inviting me on. I appreciate it.
All right. We'll talk, buddy. Later.
All right. Take care.
I want to thank Sean, JDM Reverend, and also Will for joining. I needed Will just to come on and kind of explain that. Hopefully that made some sense to you guys, because I wasn't quite sure about how all that stuff worked. And I mean, we work really hard, right? We all work hard to get our credit in shape, and then someone runs your shit and it comes back less than you than that you've worked for. It's like, okay, why am I paying money for this if it's something different? So I'm glad he explained that. So that's Will, WILL.LS430, like Lexus. Will LS430. That's his shit on Instagram. Want to thank Right Honda and Right Toyota at Scottsdale, Arizona, Fountain Hills Motorsports, Cell Shop Wireless Services, and 4-Wheel Online. Also want to thank Kuya Automotive out of Warner Garden, Florida, and Pell Construction out of Caledonia, Michigan. If you're in a position to help the podcast upgrade, you can join the Patreon, patreon.com/HardParkingPodcast. You can get access to bonus materials like learning about my car early. Also, all the Patreons that have been, all the VIP Patreons that have been paying for a while, got a Hard Parking Podcast t-shirt. Those shirts are of the highest quality because I'm a shirt snob. If you need one, email us, hardparkingpodcast@gmail.com. 100% of those proceeds do go to help grant a local child's wish. Those are $25 shipped. Continental U.S. will ship international, but there will be an extra fee because international is expensive. I don't need your money. That money's going to charity-ish, but I don't want to pay to send you some shit either. You follow me on Instagram at Jhae Pfenning, that's JHAEPFENNING, or Jhae Travels, JHE_Travels. If I said that too fast, my name is on the podcast. Don't forget to follow the YouTube page, youtube.com, Hard Parking Podcast. I think this week at some point I'm going to get the Ford Explorer that I rented when I was in Toronto up, if it's not up already. But I can't do this without you telling the world how good the show is, so let's do this. Let's grow this thing together, and I will talk to you next week. No, seriously, tell your friends.
Shut up!
A beater